Okay, you're watching an earlier coverage that explains this protest that happened today. It was called Unite the Right Rally, but it was located in Washington, D.C. at Lafayette Square. And so here's the details.
Quijano, thanks for joining us. It's been 1 year since the violent clashes in Charlotteville, Virginia, and the same white nationalists who planned last year's rally are organizing again. A Unite the Right rally is expected to happen in Lafayette Square, across from the White House. Jason Kessler planned it. Kessler is a self-proclaimed white nationalist and was behind last year's rally. He says he expects up to 400 people to attend his event. This year, permits were also approved for several counter-protests in Washington, D.C. They reportedly include Black Lives Matter and an individual who plans to burn a Confederate flag. Joining me now from Washington is CBS News correspondent Chris Van.
The crowd grow noticeably. We're standing on 8th Street, which, as you know, is right outside of Lafayette Square Park, and there's a large group of counter demonstrators, people who are opposed to this white supremacist march that have gathered now. That's in addition to the people that are in the square. That program has been going on since a little bit after 1 o'clock today. Then there is another group of counter protesters at Freedom Plaza, which is across from DC City Hall. We hear there are hundreds, maybe 1,000 people there. So certainly the are here in large numbers and are continuing to gather. Jason Kessler, we understand, is on his way here to gather at a metro station in Virginia and take the train in. That's become a bit of a point of controversy because the Metropolitan Transit Authority here said they were not going to do a special train for these white supremacist demonstrators. Today, they then decided to shut down that train station with the exception of the people coming for that Unite the Right rally and then put them on a train separate from everybody else. So expect there to be some controversy in the DC area over that decision. But what we understand is at least some of the Unite the Right organizers are on a train on their way to DC here shortly. They'll arrive at the Foggy Bottom metro station, which is on the campus of the George Washington University, and then they will walk here. Certainly, some of the counter-protesters know that plan as well. So if there was going to be a flashpoint, that may well be it. Because once they get here, we pan over, you can see all of this fencing here. There's a lot of police. This area where we are is where the counter-protesters will be. Then there's another series of fences lined by police. That's where the Unite the Right white supremacist rally will take place. So once they get to the park, there's going to be a lot of separation. The question here is, what about coming and going from the park? That's where we could see some kind of confrontation. And certainly there are a lot of DC police, U.S. Park Police, Secret Service police out here right now. So certainly people are on high alert as we wait to see what happens as we get closer to this Unite the Right rally and just how many demonstrators actually show up for that.
And Chris, I'm wondering more about these counter protesters. You mentioned they're not just there, but also over at Freedom Plaza. What kind of groups do these counter protesters come from? Are there sort of overarching organizations that have helped to get those counter demonstrators there?
You know, you've seen several community organizers. Some of these demonstrations are very well organized. The one that's going on right over here, Tony will pan over, has had a long list of speakers. They have a stage. They've been pretty well organized. The Freedom Plaza rally, similarly, community organizers, civil rights advocates, and this has all gone off very peacefully so far today. One of the other questions is, what's the weather going to do? We're already starting to see some ominous clouds gathering. There's been the potential for thunderstorms in the forecast. It's a hot, steamy Washington day, so severe weather could also play a part in what happens next.
All right, we know you'll continue to watch it for us. Chris Van Cleve, thanks very much.
Sure thing.
Now let's take you to Charlottesville, Virginia for an update there. Last year, a counter-protester named Heather Heyer died when a white nationalist rammed his car into a crowd. 19 others were injured. Hyer's mother, Susan Bro, told CBS News she is urging people to, quote, not respond to violence during this year's planned protests. Tyler Hahn from our affiliate in Charlottesville, WCAV, has a look at the scene this afternoon.
Elaine, good afternoon. A fairly peaceful morning here in Charlottesville compared to what it was like in this park a year ago. I'm standing at Market Street Park, which, as you know, was the place where the violent rally last year took place before police declared it an unlawful assembly. But today, eerily quiet, actually. The statue over here stands up. Quiet. Of course, this is the Robert E. Lee statue in Charlottesville, which is under intense controversy of people wanting to remove it because they think it stands for racism and white supremacy. Others saying that it is a piece of history. Now, as I mentioned today, it's been fairly quiet. We have had a few instances with police. There's been a protest that's moved from one of the parks here in Charlottesville through downtown Charlottesville, but so far we haven't heard anything about any scuffles or anything of that nature. Now, here, actually, just a few minutes ago, actually around noon, there was a scuffle with what appeared to be a man who supported the police statue. He was seen saluting the statue, and a counter-protester then got up in his face and started yelling back and forth. It actually got to the point where police had to separate them. They were both detained. We're not sure if they're facing any charges, but state police here have detained them. Now, also, if you want to look over here, another thing you can see is that there are several National Guard troops here in Charlottesville. City, state, and county officials here are not taking any chances after what happened last year. There are actually probably more than 700 Virginia State Police troopers in Charlottesville for this weekend. And as I mentioned, even including yesterday, besides a couple of rallies, nothing violent has been seen here in Charlottesville so far. So a big difference from what it was like here in Charlottesville last year. We'll send it back to you in the studio, Elaine.
All right.